What's good, everyone? Today in this live stream, this is going on YouTube, but I also want to do this live check and kind of give their opinions about this as well. We're going to be doing a tier list of all the weapons in World War III. We're going to start with like the SMGs and the shotguns, the pistols and that sort of thing, and then work our way up to the battle rifles and the ARs and stuff. I also have World War III open here in the background. I can look at stats and that sort of thing and kind of compare guns. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it here. So yeah, let's start with the SMGs. That would be good. And let's just start. Let's start with the SIG. So obviously, like the Glock, the pistol, it's not going to be better than the SCAR, but in its own category of weapons, I think I should rate it like that, where it might not be like, if there's an S tier pistol, it might not be S tier compared to all the other weapons, but in its category. I think it's hard to say that the SIG or any of the SMGs could be S tier because there's so many other like better weapons. The SIG, it's really good for like, by far probably the best SMG. I would say definitely the best SMG. It is tied for being the heaviest, but it's very good for people that don't really care about having armor when they snipe, but they want to have some kind of secondary weapon. I usually just go with a pistol personally. For some people that do like that, the SIG is probably your best option. As far as SMGs go in general, I would say the SIG is the best one by far. Definitely has the fastest time to kill and everything. So if I were to rate this, oh, and it's hard, it's so hard to say because like I said, I wanted to make it compared to all the other weapons. Like if I compared it to every other weapon, probably B tier. But if it, just in the category of SMGs, I would say A tier. It's the best, but I don't think it's really insanely good. You know what? I think except for like the pistols, I'm going to compare like primary weapons. I'm going to compare it to everything. So SMGs will be compared to ARs. So I'm going to put the SIG in B tier. That's my choice for the SIG. I know there's a lot of people that would probably say A tier. The people that might even say S tier. But for me personally, it's just there's so many other weapons that are so much better than it. Even though at close range, it's extremely good. But yeah, it's going to be a B tier for me. Moving on here, we have, let's do the Globerite. This thing's dog. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you said, oh, I killed 6 guys in a row with this thing once. I went on a 50 kill streak with the Globerite. I hate this thing. It's just the time to kill. The only like real redeeming quality that it has is the accuracy for it. There's like 0 recoil. It's just the fire rate is so slow. It's so slow. I want to go E tier on this. Couple redeeming qualities, but it still just kind of sucks. I don't know how to pronounce this weapon. Vityaz? Something like that. I know there's a lot of people that really like this weapon. Now it's good. Obviously better than the Globerite. It's like okay to me. And if I was comparing this to the SIG, I would say it's worse than the SIG. I know a lot of people who have even maxed out still use a Vityaz, but for me personally, it's just not as good as the SIG. And then again, even the SIG doesn't stack up to like A tier weapons. I think for this, I'm gonna have to go C tier. Again, I know a lot of people really like this thing. I get it. For me, it's just average. Just call it Victor. Translation of the name. Victor. Huh. I did not know that. Yeah, that's all of the SMGs there. We got the SIG at B tier, the Victor at C tier. Is there a translation for the Globerite? Is there something it's actually called that I just don't know? Yeah, that's E tier for me. All right, let's go ahead and get into, here's the order I think I'm gonna go in. So let's do SMGs, then shotguns, then LMGs, then snipers, then pistols, then battle rifles, and then ARs. We'll end it off on the ARs. Yeah, shotguns. Let's do shotguns next. Now, I had a really weird experience with shotguns the first time that I was like playing this game and started using them. They felt extremely inconsistent to me, and I could not really figure out how to use them at first. I am eventually probably going to make a video on this, but I figured out at least with the MCS, you pretty much have to hip fire with it. Because when I play like Battlefield 4, I ADS all the time with shotguns, but in this game, it just does not work. It's, at least for me, I'm going to kind of keep that in mind when rating these, but not a huge fan of shotguns personally. Let's start with the MCS here. Actually, no, let's start with the Vepr, because I have some things I want to say about the Vepr. I do not like this weapon. I cannot stand this weapon. The one-shot potential is just so bad. The range on this thing, the range drop off on it. I know it's a shotgun, but the range drop off is so pitiful. I have such a hard time getting kills with this weapon. Just because it's inconsistent doesn't mean it's a terrible weapon necessarily. Inconsistent also means there are good times. Sometimes I do think I do well with this weapon, but not very often. I would say about half the time I use this thing, I'm dominating. Half the time, I'm hitting people 5-6 times before they kill me. And with a shotgun, that's just unacceptable. We're actually going to be kind of filling this out pretty nicely here. I'm actually going to go for the Vepr. I'm going to go D tier. I can already see a lot of Vepr shills getting really mad about this one. The MCS still has the same problem of being inconsistent, but for me, it feels a lot less inconsistent. And ever since I started hip firing with this thing, it seemed like it performed a lot better for me. I'm trying to think of where I would put this because it's really hard to judge these inconsistent weapons. When this thing is performing well, I really like the MCS. TDM on Moscow with this thing, nuts. But other than that, you're really going to have a hard time finding good uses for it. Maybe on Berlin, TDM or TAC Ops. I'd love to see MCS get slugs as an option. Yeah, I think that would be not just slugs, but like other different types of ammunition. Like a slug for sure. The MCS would be really good if it had a slug. Now, the one-shot distance on it would have to be pretty good for me to consider using a slug. The worst thing in the world is video games that add slug pump shotguns that don't one-shot. It makes no sense to me. Yeah, if this thing ever got slugs and the slugs actually performed pretty well and they were actually one shot at a decent distance, I would actually probably put this thing at B tier. But as it is, I think I'm gonna have to go at C tier. Let's do LMGs next. Now with LMGs, I really don't have a whole lot of experience with them. I do with the SA80. I use the SA80 a decent amount. I did a video where I got all the attachments for it that like increase ADS time. I got the 30 round mag on there and turned it basically into the L85A2. That's the assault rifle variant of the SA80. The LMG version of the game is the I think it's the LSW something. But once you actually put those attachments on there, the SA80 is actually pretty nice. But with like the MG5, I tried leveling this thing up and just had a really hard time. I've barely used the Pecheneg. I'm gonna have a hard time rating these really. I wanted to max out every weapon in the game before I did this, but there's just some weapons that I just did not want to use. The Pecheneg and the MG5 for me. I'm not gonna be a bipod warrior. I'm not gonna bipod up, sit in the back of the map and use these things. That's just not fun for me. So it's gonna be hard, a little bit harder for me to rate these. I'll do my best here. The Pecheneg and the MG5. I think I'm just going to have to go straight E tier for both of these. Obviously, you can't run and gun with them. That's the only thing that I like doing is being active when I play. I don't like just sitting around. The Pecheneg is probably a little bit better at run and gunning, maybe. You're missing the PKM. Am I really? Oh, I am. UKM? Okay, yeah, I did miss it. Here we go. UKM. You know what? The Pecheneg has a little bit more like run and gun capability. I did like it a little bit. I'm actually going to put that at D tier. I'm also running out of room here. So because I'm running out of room, I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and put this thing at D tier. And then now the SA80. This is the only one that I actually really enjoyed using at all. Trying to get attachments to help with the recoil for this thing was a pain in the ass. Once you got them, it wasn't that bad. And they was actually pretty fun to use, but it's not really that great. There's nothing that excels at as like an assault rifle. It's just kind of okay. C tier, maybe. D tier. It's like C or D for me, really. I feel like if I'm putting the Pecheneg at D tier, I have to put the SA80 at C tier. Also, just for fun factor. I feel like the SA80 it's just fun to use. Let's go with snipers here. Yeah, let's start with the Toknost first. I'll do that one first. The Toknost, it's fun to use. It's really fast. The only thing, compact barrel or no compact barrel. This thing gets hit markers all the time. Even with headshots with no compact barrel at like medium range, you'll get headshot hit markers all the time with this thing. Dude's helmet's popping off, not getting one-shot kills. Super common with the Toknost. But it's very, very fun to use. When it works and it works well, this thing owns. It's just very frustrating sometimes. So with the Toknost, I think I'm gonna go B tier. It's good, it's fun, just inconsistent at times. G29, one of my favorite weapons in the game. Now, to put it at S tier, I don't think I would say that this is an S tier weapon. It's a sniper. It can't really ever be that good. If I was just, again, doing this just off of category, this would be S tier. But comparing it to every other weapon, it's really good, but you're not going to beat an SMG or an AR, really. In a lot of situations, you're just going to get outgunned with this thing. So this is going to be an A tier for me. Still an amazing weapon. Once you get compact barrel for it, you always one shot to the chest at close range. Even when people have tier 4 armor, always going to be a one shot with compact barrel. So M200. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people in my chat that have a lot of experience with this weapon. So you unlock it at level 47. The game just wiped. I don't have it unlocked yet, but I did use it a decent amount in the closed beta. One thing I will say, there were 0 attachments for this thing. You couldn't take off this carry handle, so you couldn't put like a a laser sight on there. I don't know if you can do that now. I don't really know. This one's gonna be a little bit hard for me to rate as well. I don't think it can really be that amazing. This thing is like insanely good at long range, by far the best long range weapon in the game, but you are hopeless at like close range or even sometimes medium range. It's so fun to use though. That's the thing. That's the only reason why I like it so much, is it's so fun to use. Being able to one tap people on any part of their body from any distance makes this weapon insanely fun to use. It's just not that good. In a lot of situations, you're way better off using other weapons. Regardless of how good it is, it's such a fun weapon to use. For me personally, I think I'm actually going to go B tier with this thing. I feel like a lot of people would maybe rate this thing C tier, maybe even D tier. It's very unwieldy to use when you first use it, but once you learn like how to play really slowly with this thing, where on the map you should be, where people are probably going to come from, I think people will really like this weapon a lot more. We're going to move on to the pistols. Man, this is taking forever. I think for the pistols, this is the only category that I'm not going to compare it to every other weapon. Compared to every other weapon, I mean, you know, D to F tier. In the category of pistols, that's what I'm going to compare these to. Let's start with the DMG 9mm actually. Compared to all the other pistols, oh god, it is a 2-weight. So I mean, if you're wanting to run a pistol, not the best option as far as weight if you're concerned about that sort of thing. If it only weighed 1 unit of weight, by far S tier. You would always run this thing on a sniper class. You'd run this thing on pretty much every class if it only weighed 1, but because it weighs 2, I think I'm gonna go A tier with this. It's still extremely good, especially as far as pistols go. All right, let's move on to the Raygun, however you pronounce that. Raygun. I don't know. This is the burst pistol, 1 weight. For me, it feels like it just does not kill fast enough. If you hit headshots with this thing, it kills decently quick. But if somebody has armor, you're going to get a lot of hit markers with this thing. I don't know. For me, for the Raygun, I know a lot of people like this thing, but actually now looking at some of these other ratings here, I have nothing in F tier. I might actually put the Globerite in F tier. Looking back on these, yeah, I think I'm gonna move the Globerite to F tier. Really the only F tier weapon, I would say. Even compared to pistols, I would rather have the DMG 9mm, which is also 2 weight. But back to the Raygun, not my favorite, really inconsistent time to kill for me. I think for me, this is gonna have to be E tier. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one. I know a lot of people that like to run this as their secondary pistol. A lot of guys that like sniping like to have the Raygun. I prefer the G17. Now we'll get to the Lebedev. I actually have some stuff I want to say about the Lebedev, but over the Raygun, I would use the G17 any day. The time to kill for this thing feels way more consistent. I really like to run this thing with a suppressor and a red dot sight on it. Feels really smooth, very easy to use. Now, would I put it at A tier? I don't think so. I don't think it's an A tier pistol. It's definitely good, but not like, you can't compare this thing to the 9mm, obviously. If you're in the pistol category, even though it's weightless, you just can't put it in the same tier as the 9mm. So I think I'm gonna have to go B tier. Last, the Lebedev. I didn't really think much of this weapon at first. When I first started using this thing, it didn't really like blow me out of the water. It wasn't insane to me. But when I started putting the suppressor on it, when I put a sight on it, put the extended mag on it, and actually started running this thing, and I got used to like the trigger finger for it, like tap firing very quickly with this thing. Yeah, when I got used to it, this thing is actually nuts. Very underrated. I made a video called When John Wick Plays for World War III, where I used this pistol suppress, the Lebedev. This thing is really good. I think it's very underrated. I think a lot more people should use it. Yeah, it is a 1-weight pistol. So a lot of people are probably going to go with the Glock regardless, or the burst pistol, because like, hey, single fire, right? For me, I like this thing more than I like the Glock. I think this thing's way underrated. I'm going to have to go A tier for the Lebedev. If you disagree with me, I suggest you put the backpack suppressor on it. I always forget which one. Yeah, the combo suppressor. This thing actually like farms. It's so good. Can we do the battle rifles or the assault rifles first? What do you think, chat? Battle rifles? All right, you're the first one to answer, so I'll go ahead and do that. So, a lot of people know my opinion on battle rifles, man. In the stream yesterday, I wanted to unlock the SCAR just to see if they actually nerfed it. And after the stream yesterday, my conclusion is no. It seems like there's a little bit more randomness to the horizontal recoil, but it's still very controllable. And if you put on a horizontal recoil suppressor and then a vertical recoil grip, the SCAR H is still really good. The M417, both of them are both really, really good. There's only 2 battle rifles in the game. I'm gonna do these really quick. M417, really good. A tier for sure. It seems like it has a little bit more recoil than it did. Still kills very quickly. obvious A tier for me. Scar H, I mean, come on. If there was a tier higher than this, Scar H is going God tier. This weapon is nuts. By far the best weapon in the game. No doubt, best weapon in the game. Hands down. Horizontal suppressor, but the combo suppressor, vertical recoil grip, monster grip big, absolute melter. Something that can go fully auto that kills in 2 to 3 bullets. That is wild. All right, got a lot of assault rifles to go through here, man. Let's just kind of go in order here. Let's start with the AK-15. Now, I did not like the AK-15 at first. For the closed beta, for me, didn't really stand out as being that good. In my opinion, it was like, oh, you might as well just use the barrel. Less weight. The recoil was like nothing for the barrel. Time to kill felt faster for the barrel. Oh, actually, the slightly higher fire rate for the AK-15. I've actually liked using it during the open beta. The open beta, this thing has really kind of grown on me. I've only used it a little bit. I'm level 18 on it right now. Level 39 on the barrel, but the AK-15 has really grown on me. And actually now seeing that the fire rate on it is better. I always thought the barrel was just way better, but I guess the time to kill is actually slightly better on the AK-15. I just didn't like the way it recoiled at first, but now it seems like the recoil is a little bit more predictable than it was, especially when I slap on a suppressor. Barrel used to be like S tier as well, but now it kind of feels A tier-ish. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think I'm going to have to go AK-15. I'm going to go A tier. Let me go ahead and actually do the barrel too. I already said barrel A tier. Let me just go ahead and do the barrel too. They're both kind of interchangeable for me now. I could use one or the other and do just as well. I want to go A tier. Assault rifles. Let's go G36. Now this thing, I got it pretty much to max level right before the beta ended, and I didn't like it at first. Without attachments, this thing's very hard to control. But with attachments, I actually really like this thing. Now, is it as good as the barrel or the 417 or the AK-15 or the G29? No, I don't think so. But it's obviously not as bad as the Lebedev Victor. That's right, Victor. Definitely not as bad as the Victor, the G36, obviously. Still a very good gun. Not as good as the AK-15 barrel or 417, obviously. All right. M4 MWS. Let's do this one next. This gun is nuts. It has a decent amount of recoil, but it really does feel pretty controllable once you get attachments for it. It's not super unpredictable, and the time to kill on this thing is absolutely insane. The time to kill on the M4 MWS is nuts. People need to use this thing more. I think this might be an S tier weapon, because looking at a couple other ones in here, if you're feeling it and you're controlling your recoil well, I'm going to say that this thing is an S tier. I think some people might disagree with me on that. Give this thing another shot, unlock all the attachments for it, and come back to me. I really do think the M4 MWS is an S tier weapon. All right, M416, move on. Now, the time to kill on the 416 isn't amazing. It's still really good, but it's not like Scar H or MWS tier. It's still really good. The only thing is how controllable this thing is. The 416 is so easy to control, man. Very easy to hit headshots. Obviously, with any weapon, the more headshots you hit, the faster the time to kill is going to be. But this thing makes headshots so easy to get, and it's so effortless to hit the headshots with this thing. It's going to have to factor into the time to kill. I think a lot of people would say this thing's A tier, just because the time to kill isn't like super insane. But for me, I'm gonna have to go S tier for the 416. All right, now the Msbsk. Martin, you said that you're interested to see my opinion on this thing. I don't know. I have a hard time rating this one. I would almost put this at A tier. It kills very fast, very, very easy to use, very low recoil. The only thing I would say that's bad about it is the bullet velocity. It's very hard to judge medium to long range shots with this thing. Still a really good gun though. I almost want to put this at A tier, but I think I'm going to have to put this at B tier. Still really good. I still suggest using this thing. All right, I think I'm going to end on the alpha. So let's go with the Msbsk. So this is another example of a weapon that I didn't really like that much at first. At first being the very first weapon that you use in the game. This is always the first weapon that people use. Either that or like the Victor. This weapon grew on me. When I made the meta attachments video for this thing, I wanted to do it just for beginner players to kind of get an idea of like what attachments do what. But what I didn't really realize was the time to kill on this thing is actually really good. All right, let's select the Msbsk and then compare it. So the fire rate on the G36 is better, but the G36 is just so hard to control. Better than the 416, time to kill, comparable to the MWS. MWS has slightly higher fire rate. I wouldn't put this at S tier, even though it does have a very fast time to kill, but this thing is going to have to go at A tier for me. It's wild. The very first weapon you use, everyone's first introduction to this game, is an A tier weapon. It doesn't really seem like it that much at first, but I think for people that don't really like it that much, if you use it more and get more used to the recoil, you'll like it a lot more. All right, the very last one. I have made 2 videos on this weapon. One talking about how I'm going to talk about the gun, and then another video talking about the gun. For those of you who don't know, the Alpha uses only armor piercing rounds. The Alpha is nuts. You never have to worry about armor. The time to kill on it isn't like extremely insane. Like, let's compare the barrel to it. Lower fire rate than the barrel, lower fire rate than the AK-15. Compared to all the other 7.62 weapons, slightly lower time to kill. It's just you never have to worry about armor with this thing. And because of that, definitely an S tier weapon. When I first said this, I think a lot of people disagreed with me on this one. Definitely an S tier weapon for me. That is my list. That took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But yeah, that is my list.